7 years. And they have all this mushroom food there, like 20 vendors selling mushroom food. So this is like basically dinner with mushrooms for $2. And here's some more mushroom food. So they have, let's see, these are all common names in Mexico. So the champignon is Agaricus bisporus. And then patas de pájaro is romeria. And then this tinga is made out of lobster mushrooms. And oreja de puerco, I forget which one that is. I think that's lobster mushrooms as well. Some of these are also halvela. And then they have this beauty pageant, and the people that win the beauty pageant get to be the queens in Fungus Fair. So they walk around with these crowns on. And then here's the president of the village doing a TV interview.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, the display is really good there. It keeps going for a long ways. Usually have about 300 species. And I always photograph all of them, put them all up in Mushroom Observer. And then when I need to make the tags, I just download the list of my observations and print them all out. So I know what comes up here now. And this is an M16 carbine.
It grew on a tree?
Well, the police in Michoacan always carry machine guns. So these police are actually really nice. They make fun of me for finding hallucinogenic mushrooms, and I make fun of them for being corrupt. But yeah, always these for good photo opportunities. We're in the sorting tables. And what they do is they pay people to bring in truckloads of mushrooms, and then I put names on all of them and identify them all, put them all on display. And whenever everyone asks me what my favorite mushroom is, I always say Lepiota trichroma. And when you touch it, it stains bright red after 10 seconds, and then bright green after 2 minutes. And then it's already bright yellow, so for that, I named for the 3 colors. And then there's also Lepiota trichroma, hat. And the rest of this talk will talk about psilocybe. So that's the genus of the psilocybin mushrooms. This here is Virginia Ramirez Cruz. She's one of the world experts on psilocybe, and she just published her doctoral thesis on doing DNA analysis of all of psilocybe. And she completely rearranged around the genus. We used to use microscopes to do all this stuff, and it turns out that all that microscopy was not leading us to be able to figure out how it was all really related. Now we can actually see how it's related. These are the psilocybe cabinets at the Herbarium ENCD. So this is where they keep all the magic mushrooms in Mexico City. And they had a lot of really cool stuff in here, like Maria Sabina collections and really rare species from all over the world. So I studied here for 2 weeks last year, and got to scope a lot of really interesting collections. So all those boxes are full of smaller boxes. This is the Psilocybe baeocystis box. So each of those is a collection of Psilocybe baeocystis. And then Psilocybe neohalopensis is a really cool one. It's really common around Jalapa. It's named after Jalapa. And then down here is a Lactarius, like Lactarius ligniotis, and then behind that is an LED flashlight. But Psilocybe neohalopensis is probably really strong. It's a pretty strong odor. And this is one that's always in the cloud forests. And so the gills start out kind of cream colored like this, and then as the spores mature, they turn purple. And you can see the chylos in the video. That's like all these white lines along the edge of the gill. We always joke that we're going to write a book on Psilocybe neohalopensis, because I have about 600 photos of them. So we have to collect and photograph everything and then do the microscope work later to see what species it really is. So I end up with a lot of photos. Psilocybe cubensis is the only mushroom you can find at a Grateful Dead show. Pretty common in cow manure. The most of the Mexican psilocybes grow in landslides and up in the cloud forests. This is the only psilocybe that grows in cow manure. And also one of the 2 that has an annulus. So that's me in the back, looking for more Psilocybe cubensis in this cow pasture.
So how were you able to maintain your focus after you found them?
Oh, I don't eat them. We just save them for science.
Oh, okay.
But finding them is definitely really fun. So this is Alonzo, one of the experts on psilocybe. And this is the habitat. And then these are the guys that own the field. So we're out there photographing the cubensis, and the owners came along. And if this was Texas, they would have like shot at us or called the cops or something. But this was Mexico, so he tried to trade me his land for my Jeep. Yeah, it was a lot of land, but I said no because I needed my Jeep.
You can get a horse.
For a Jeep and a horse, maybe. This is the spores of Psilocybe cubensis. You can see they have really thick walls. And the Psilocybe subtropicalis is the only one that I find in oak forests. And so it's got pretty interesting microscopic features, and it's very rare in most places, but common around the area around Jalapa. It's the habitat. And I always keep all my collections in these tackle boxes. They all stay separate, and they don't get damaged or anything. It's a really good idea. And Psilocybe fagicola is really tiny, just a couple millimeters across. And sometimes we need to use a microscope to separate this from Neohalopensis, but then if it's really small like this one was, then we can tell it's fagicola because it was mature and just ridiculously small when it was mature. More fagicola. And then Psilocybe mexicana has a really strong cucumber odor, so it's super easy to identify that way. And it grows out in pastures, usually horse pastures. And then Psilocybe hymeae, a little bit lighter in color than Psilocybe neohalopensis, but it's found in the same habitats. Differs with the microscopic features. And then Psilocybe zapotecorum is probably the strongest magic mushroom in Mexico. This is the one they call the derrumbe. And it grows in landslides. And it gets really big, stains blue really strongly, and has this really nice squamulose stem. But it's one of my favorite ones to photograph. It always looks really cool. And then I squeeze the gills, and it turns blue like this. So you can see that it really has a lot of psilocin. And that's one of the hallucinogenic drugs that's changing color when it reacts with the air.
How long is that blue stain usually do?
I took this picture about 90 seconds after I squeezed the cap. But almost always when I find a mushroom, it already has a little bit of blue on it. It's only the brand new pristine ones that don't already have blue. The zapotecorum likes to grow near landslides and also near water. So these we had to wait to get photographs of. And we left these here. We didn't pick these, but then a couple hours later we saw some hippies and we talked to them about mushrooms, and we saw this exact cluster in the back seat of their car. It's got really cool microscopic features. This is Pleurocystidium, which is Ramos, so it's like has these crazy forks on it.
Okay, got a couple more minutes and then we gotta wrap it up, my friend.
All right, we're almost done.
Okay, cool.
Psilocybe youngensis is one of the few that grow directly out of decaying wood. And sometimes there's a whole lot of them. It's a really mature one. And you can see they look really neat. They have really thin caps. And they smell like cucumbers and radishes. So this was a log that was going over a landslide. But you see they're really photogenic. And they have heart-shaped spores.
When would the landslide be a place for finding these?
No one knows. But there's 4 species of Psilocybe in Mexico that are only found in landslides. There's a new species of Psilocybe that I discovered this summer, but there was only one of them, so I'm not going to describe it. We kept returning to the place, and we can't find any more. But it has these crazy forked chylocystidia, which is like youngensis, but then the spores are like mexicana, so definitely a new species. Psilocybe cerulipes was described from the east coast of the United States. Psilocybe asdicorum grows only on the volcanoes, the very tops of the volcanoes that surround Mexico City. Very high elevation. So there's only 3 or 4 places in the world that this grows. It's a very tiny habitat. But I sequenced this and it came out really close to Psilocybe cervica, which was a big surprise. And so scanning electron microscopy. It's pretty cool. And then Psilocybe caerulescens. This is another one of the Derumbe group. Grows in lower elevations. This is the sawmill. There's thousands of these there, more than anyone could ever possibly carry. Hundreds of hippies looking for it, but no one's ever found it. And then Psilocybe hoochiganii is one with the really acute umbo. This is one that Maria Sabina collected back in the 50s. And then Psilocybe maluricula is the really high elevation Derumbe. This is the habitat for it. Here's some I found right next to the side of the road. Usually they're in these kind of landslide type habitats. Yeah, disturbed soil. Usually dry riverbeds is where I find them. You just walk along the dry river for miles and there's patches every few hundred feet. And that is all I have for you.